It's too quiet.
Hopefully we get a couple of others before we start. Got a couple of apologies, I think. People still coming in, but we might, it's 7 o'clock. I might give people another couple of minutes just to, in case there's anybody else who's coming along. We've got a couple of apologies. Hi, Nathan. Hi, Cody. Hi, everyone from the Business Innovation Hub and also the Gawler Business Development Group. I think we might get started. My name's Karen Redmond. I'm the Mayor of the town of Gawler, and this is a workshop on the Business Innovation Hub. Just let Deputy Mayor Hughes in. We do have a couple of apologies. We've got an apology from Councillor Brian Samble. We've got an apology from, I think, Councillor Paul Little. I don't recall any other apologies unless somebody can remind me of any other apologies that I'm aware of. Firstly, I'd like to welcome everyone here. Thank you for taking time out of your busy days to attend and contribute to this informal workshop. Really keen to hear people's thoughts and ideas. Welcome to council staff that are attending. We have David Barrett here, we've got Henry Inat, the CEO, and Kirsty, our Special Projects Officer from Council. Again, I'd like to welcome the Gawler Business Development Group members and of course the Business Innovation Hub members. I'd like to acknowledge that we meet on Kaurna land this evening, which of course are the traditional lands, Greater Adelaide Plains. We acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So this workshop session is informal. It's convened for the purpose of discussion regarding the operations of the Business Innovation Hub and possible programming opportunities that both align with the needs of existing hub members and deliver on the intent of the hub. So this is for information sharing. We don't come to consensus positions. It's only a workshop. We don't make decisions. There's no set agenda. There's no minutes taken. If there's any information presented at this session, we should be able to make that available on Council's website if considered appropriate. I've not been advised that we need to speak in confidence at all. David's shaking his head, so we shouldn't need to worry about that. And RDA rep coming in now. If you're not speaking, just some etiquette around Zoom. I think everyone really is okay with all of that, but if you can put your mic on mute, and when you want to speak, just take it off. You are in control of that. Yes. So yes, I'd like to welcome everyone here. So David Barrett, is that you, Anne? Hello. You're in the dark, I think, a little bit. Yes. And so Anne Moroney, CEO of RDA Barossa, is here. Welcome. I might hand over to you, David Barrett, just to walk us through this evening. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Mayor Redman. Welcome, everybody. Just a brief update. So as everyone on this call is aware, Council took over operations of the Business Innovation Hub from the 1st of October last year. And we've been working through a process with Council around delivery of the incubator services that are planned for the Hub. So these services are available to Hub members as well as to attract new members to support in startup and delivery and incubating those members of the Hub, developing their businesses, mentoring, skills and support development as well, with the intent that we can grow the businesses, hopefully through the Hub's programs, etc., to make them commercially viable tenants within Gawler and grow their outcomes, get more employment outcomes as a result, and grow their business as well. Since October, we haven't run any incubator services programs, and we've been trying to work through what the model about those incubator services programs should be in the future. We presented a report to Council, which we shared with everyone in December last year with a few different options. Partnership with the Gawler Business Development Group and Regional Development Australia Barossa was one of the options around that. Also going back out to market to seek an external provider was another option. And the third option was for Council to appoint someone as an internal resource to deliver those programs and offset fund that through Hub membership fees, etc. At that meeting, Council resolved to conduct a workshop with all Hub members to get obviously your input and ideas into what sort of support and services existing Hub members want and how they believe those supports and services should be best delivered by Council or partners. So it's a very informal discussion tonight. So I'm happy to open it up for that discussion around what existing members believe they would like to achieve out of support services through the Hub and how we should deliver them.
Thanks, David. Just some housekeeping. In your reactions button on your screen, there's a raise hand. If you can use that if you want to speak, and then take your mic, put your mic on, so that and if there's multiple people with hands up, I'll say blah blah, so and so first, blah blah blah, like that, so that you'll know when it's your turn to speak, and we'll try and manage it that way rather than everyone speaking at once, if that's okay. So I hope everyone understands about what the reactions tab is. Nathan's raised his hand already. Hi, Nathan, you popped up, gone somewhere. There you are. So Nathan's raised his hand in the corner there. Yeah, so on the reactions, it's got a big, on the bottom it says raise hand. Yeah, and that way I can see that you want to speak, and it just might be a bit more orderly. So Nathan?
Yeah, firstly, thank you everyone for attending. A few familiar faces, a few I'm not so familiar with. I was just wondering, are we able to go around in a bit of a circle and just sort of get to know who we're actually speaking with before? Obviously, it's a bit easier in person, but the time we live in, that's not quite so easy, but just to open up the conversation like that, if we could.
Okay, so we might, I've got, everyone's in a different spot. Each time you speak, you jump in a different spot. So I might start with the Gawler Business Development Group and then go around businesses, and I'll name you by what your name is on your Zoom link, and you can introduce yourself. So firstly, Karen and Louise.
Hi everyone, I'm Karen Brolm. I'm the Executive Officer of the Gawler Business Development Group.
You're on mute, Louise.
That's better. Louise Drummond, Chair of the Gawler Business Development Group Board.
Thank you. Paul Koch.
Yes, I'm an elected member on the town of Gawler. I also have my own business. I've got a small publishing business, and at one stage I was looking to go into the hub as a member, but decided that because my business was mature enough that I wouldn't be benefiting from any of the incubator programs, etc., because we're probably okay. So I decided not to become a member. Thank you.
And of course, you heard from David Barrett, who's our manager. Many of you would know David. You would have had conversations with David, manager of business communications and everything else, David. Di Fraser.
Good evening, everybody. An elected member of the town of Gawler. Sorry, I lost my video. Yeah.
There it is. Thank you, Di. Karen.
Hi, I'm just a casual member at the hub. My business is fairly new, 18 months old. So to be able to see clients in the hub has been great.
Fantastic. Henry.
Thanks, Karen. Yes, my name's Henry and I'm the CEO from the town of Gawler. And I look forward to the conversation coming up with some great ideas. Thank you.
Pina.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm Pina from Chile Recruitment. I'm one of the hub members.
Tom and Rachel.
Hey, we're Tom and Rachel. We run a business, Tandem Energy, out of the hub. And I have to say on that point that you raised, Paul, that it was good to hear David. He spoke about innovation, growth, and something else. And one of the things that we find is that a business in the startup phase, if that means the first 2 years, there's still an opportunity, even if your business is going for 10 years, to decide that you're going to pivot or that you're going to grow or that you're going to do something new. So thinking about startup as something that's exclusive to new businesses, I think is a bit limiting. And we see it quite a bit. We miss out on all sorts of stuff just because someone goes up, you've been around for too long to qualify.
Kirsty.
Hi everyone, so I'm Kirsty Dudley, the Special Projects Officer for Council, which means I do various projects as well as do grants administration for Council and also assist in the areas of economic development and tourism as well.
Alex Brown.
G'day folks, my name's Alex. I'm a hub member. My business, which is Alex Brown's Strategic Financial Planners, is in very much the incubation stage, and we're looking to trade in the next couple of months. Thank you.
Lovely. Thanks, Alex. Nathan.
Thank you, Karen. I'm an elected member for the town of Gawler. I ran my own business for about 9 years. And I had a young child and realised working 60, 70 hours a week wasn't beneficial. So I work for GCJ Constructions now as a project manager, managing their construction builds. And I stupidly decided to go for council and still work 60, 70 hours a week. So yeah, look, it is what it is, but it's lovely to meet you all.
Cody.
Yeah, I'm Cody. I'm also an elected member of the council.
Thanks, Cody. Deputy Mayor David Hughes.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm an elected member of the council. I'm sort of interested in from a bit of feedback about how the hub's been going, because from a bit of research from interstate hubs, they seem to try and get a mix of businesses, which I think Gawler's tried to do, but also get mix of skills. They've even, some of them had solicitors and accountants and all sorts of mixes there for the sort of the small businesses to feed on. And just some of that skill mix, whether that's needed or something, whether there were some benefits and there's always Commonwealth, but there's not many state programs, but there is Commonwealth programs, but things that the hub could be into, And I think a bit like Councillor Koch was saying, those grey stages of where businesses, are nicely asked to move on from the hub. I think it's good to actually have a mix of really experienced businesses probably in the hub as well, which I think is important, but for those new businesses, but just how all those dynamics work, and whether I can get some feedback on that would be really good. Thanks.
Henry Mueller.
Hello, thanks for inviting me, Karen. Lovely to see everybody there. My name's Henry Mueller, as Karen introduced me, and I'm from Regional Planning Directions, which is a regional town planning and consultancy business. And I do work throughout most of the state, and also in metropolitan Adelaide, and mainly the northern suburbs and the rural areas of the Barossa. So yeah, I've been a member of the hub now, or working from the hub now for well over a year, and I've employed some people as well. At the moment, I'm down to just myself, but I have an offsider that will be coming back after the election. He's helping some independents hopefully get elected in the state parliament. So yeah, I'm interested to hear more about the hub. I think it's got a lot of opportunities for using some of your high-tech facilities to have teleconferencing and that kind of thing. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Anne Moroney.
Thanks, Karen. No, the button was slow to respond. Anne Moroney from Regional Development for Barossa, Gawler, Light, Adelaide Plains. We do a lot of things, but relevantly try and get new stuff happening in the region, and that ends up with us focusing a lot on the startup economy. We've got some new and higher level capability in this area with Zach, who's worked a lot with startups across various contexts and are starting to attract good relationships with the big startup events like South Start, which is having a local day. We've got an Angels program in its infancy, and working to network the different hubs across the region at the moment. So it's a big area of interest and opportunity to connect with, of course, all our services, including the B2B program, of which there are a number of B2B providers who are residents of the hub. So it's a good fit. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. So I might hand over to hub members initially. Who'd like to make a few comments first? Doesn't really matter what your comments are, just feed into the conversation and who knows where it will go. Who'd like to go first? Don't be shy. I might choose one. Henry Mueller. You're muted, Henry.
Okay, I think the hub's pretty fantastic. There are probably some opportunities that could be explored. I think, for example, the address. It's a good address for a business, and there might be some ways of strengthening the association of the business with the address. Maybe a shared post box. We could possibly contribute to that service, and that way we benefit from being associated with the address. Other opportunities are the possibility of using your teleconferencing facilities and providing some training in relation to that, so that we may be able to attract some conferences to the the whole centre there, council centre. There may be opportunities to have conferences with planning groups, that sort of thing, business groups. And so I think there are quite a number of opportunities. Another weakness, I think, is the car parking. It'd be lovely to have a designated car parking area for some of us, and we'd be happy to pay for it as well. But that's all.
Karen, thank you, Henry. Really good points. Karen.
I'm just a casual user. I use the rooms rather than the hub most of the days that I come in. One of the things that I've noticed is that there is another Gawler business hub just up the road, and some of my clients are finding it hard to work out which business hub they need to be at. So I sent them emails saying next to the ANZ Bank to try and make it a little bit easier for them. But the fact that there is a business innovation hub and a Gawler business hub within walking distance of each other is causing a bit of a problem.
Okay. I'll go to Nathan, but I do want to hear from members. Nathan?
Yeah, thank you, Karen. It's just Henry made some great points. I just as an elected member, wouldn't mind some elaborations on what is good about the hub. I mean, as a builder, I also agree that it's a great space, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm just trying to dial down to what you find great about the hub. And as business owners talk, I just, didn't want to go around in that circle.
Henry?
Karen, Alex Brown here.
Oh, sorry, Alex.
Yeah,
well, I might go back to Henry because Nathan.
Oh, sorry. Yep. No
and then I'll go, and then I'll promise I'll come back to you, Alex.
No problems.
So Henry,
okay. Thank you.
What do you like?
Thank you, Karen. My mic's okay. The hub is good because it's a collegial environment and it's a working environment that tends to help you focus. Even if there is talk and work going on behind you, I just zone that out and it doesn't affect me. The other thing is that there are numerous meeting rooms, and we have good access to those in terms of the centralised sort of booking system. So we can arrange for clients to come in and see us and have meetings, and sometimes we can actually have meetings with community groups as well, who are also clients, mind you. Then it's quite lovely to have the kitchen and the facilities there, and have a cafe close by and handy. So it's a buzzing little working environment.
Alex, thank you, Henry. I think that was really good insight. Alex?
I'm new to the hub community. I think the facilities are second to none. But what I'd like to see is more large screens in the interview rooms, in the little meeting rooms. The other thing is just a bit of signage on the front window when you go up to the hub, just listing the businesses there. And what I've really enjoyed is the other businesses there. So I've had a chat to Pina with Henry as well, what he does, and if I'm looking to buy a block of land or whatever, he's the man to go and see. And also Connexus have been fantastic, just helping me out, looking at web pages and those sorts of things as well. So I think the business to business services within the hub has been fantastic.
Okay. Now we've got Pina and we've got Tom and Rachel, and of course the Gawler Business Development Group members. Who'd like to go next?
Who can hit unmute quicker? I'm happy to talk unless Pina, you wanted to say something first?
Go for it, Rachel. All good.
All right. I think that just listening to the chat, I think that there's probably two different things that you might be trying to get at here. And one is, what's the purpose of the hub? You know, David talked about growth and startup and some innovation things, and then that's important, but then also the day-to-day operations, which are some of the things, the other stuff that's been mentioned about where we are, what the name is, car parking, and they're kind of two separate things. I don't know if you meant to cover both of those tonight and what you wanted to get the most feedback out
I think
of.
whatever the members want to talk about, and also it is about strategic planning as well. So part of the role of council and council members is to strategically plan, and also is the hub working to its best ability? Is it, what are the opportunities? What, how can we actually brainstorm? Or are we making it bigger than Ben-Hur when it in fact is working really well? So I think it's always really good to look at what works well and celebrate that without throwing everything out and starting again. And sometimes, because we're not in the hub, the elected members are not in the hub. So we're really keen to hear your insights, because you're using that space every day and you can see its capacity, you can see what it's capable of, and also, what works well and what perhaps could work really, like signage, for example.
And I think, again, that answering that question depends on if I'm talking about using it on a day-to-day basis because it works quite well for that, or whether I'm talking about using it as a platform to grow my business and to get support and to innovate my business, because there's definitely probably room for improvement there. So I would say, yep, there's a few little niggles that we could talk about on the day-to-day. The video conferencing facilities are pretty ordinary. There's no PowerPoints in the meeting rooms, little things like that we could go on about and say those things could be improved. It's great to have different people to have lunch with or whatever. Like Henry said, it's good to have chatter around you. I get sick of looking at Tom, so it's nice to have other people to look at.
So I'm working from home.
I'm
moving away.
And I'll go to the office. So yeah, I think that it really serves its purpose, but yeah, I guess it depends what its purpose is. If its purpose is to provide a simple, easy space for people to work, it does it great. If its purpose is, to innovate and excite and stuff, it probably doesn't do that so well. If it's for networking, then the members do that themselves, but there hasn't been a lot of structured networking to support that. But we definitely all, chat. And as Alex said, everyone uses each other if we need to and bounces off each other for advice and stuff. And that's really good. But did you want to say something?
There's a lot of opportunities, obviously. It's sometimes like the reasoning why I think the hub is great. It's I don't need to drive a car. I don't need to have a car park, and I can still do some work and move away, like not being at home. So therefore, I value like hub as the best place to work from. Obviously, with that, it comes a little bit of conflict of interest or whatever I can see that the council needs. But, we are dedicated to our community and trying by working in a hub, we have opportunity to help the community. We haven't done that yet, but we are looking to sort of run sessions with the businesses just to give them an advice on how they can sort of deal with energy problems, day to day. One day in a week, we will have a couple hours there for the Gola businesses to come and chat with us.
And it's a good venue to do that.
Yeah, so that kind of utilizing ratepayers kind of funds to actually meet and help them out in a way that they require help and they don't have money to pay. But I mean, like we all pay money towards it.
Oh, towards the space.
Towards the space.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah.
That's right. Thanks, Tom and Rachel. Pina, you're waiting very patiently. Raf's coming in.
Hi, guys. Thank you. Lucky we're on mute. I have 6 children and it's apparently bath time, so God knows what you'll hear. I'll just hit the mute button if it gets a bit crazy. Yeah, what's good about the hub? What do I like about the hub? I think from our perspective, we're an executive recruitment firm, so we place professionals into permanent positions Australia-wide. The presence of the building itself, it is quite a prestigious, premium looking building, and the environment that we're in is quite professional for that aspect. Probably 20% of our interviews are face-to-face, a lot of things. And pre-COVID, we were very much quite ahead in terms of interviewing and managing behavioural questions and interviewing questions on Zoom anyway. So for us, the Zoom world has been an ongoing thing for several years. From our perspective, I think the presence itself, and for myself and my staff, I mean, we've only got 2 to 3 people at any given time in terms of staff members. It really does have that presence and the collaboration with the other businesses around. I've found that the businesses around me in the hub have been quite helpful with recommendations, ideas. You're talking to other business owners who are at the same capacity. I would suggest that most of the businesses coming into the hub are micro businesses. You're generally talking about the teeny tiny, sort of startups to next level. I think from our perspective, the more placements we have as an agency, we bill our clients, the employers, once we make a placement. And so for us, the opposite side of that in the hub is that legally we have to have interviews inside a closed room. We're not, you're technically not even supposed to interview someone, have a job interview in a cafe, just because of the privacy parameters around that. So I think we hold back ourselves from some interviews just because, you could be on the phone to someone whose boss is sitting right next to you, and there's a lot of that kind of danger around exposing that person. So we would really up the names. No, none of your team. They're all good. Your team aren't going anywhere. But it's so delicate, because you can literally be talking to someone who's an executive in an organisation, and then the next minute you're bumping into their boss or their staff. And so, there's that delicate privacy around it all. And I think we could really up the ante from our perspective is if we did have some more private spaces to have those conversations. And I've raised it with you guys before, and I've had really open and warm reception around, are there some other spaces in the building that we could potentially have a face-to-face interview and hide people, especially people that are well known around the Barossa area. They're professionals and they're coming in to see Chile recruitment. So, we want to duck off and have a private meeting with them, but not in an exposed cafe. So I know that there are some meeting rooms sitting around that I see them, the handles get sanitised, but the door handles haven't been opened for 3 months. So I think, there's space there that potentially could have that element to help us as a business. And ultimately, you're an incubator baby business. You want to fly the coop and go into a bigger kind of lease. The best way to do that for us is financially. So it is I suppose it's just been a slower pace for growth for that reason, just because we do hold back some of those interviews purely because of it feels like that public environment. Even though we're in a closed hub and I trust everyone around us, it's still got that public element to it, and you just don't know whose name you might drop on the phone without realising, and just put people in a tricky situation.
Nathan, you got some questions?
Yeah, just quickly. Thank you, Pina, for that. So you guys have that conference room. I remember going in there and meeting with Andrew Morris actually and closing the door. Is that beneficial to you, or the clear glass is still a bit of a roadblock to you?
If we have interviews, we'll go down into one of those kind of closed rooms. And it depends. I mean, if it's a week when the hub's at full capacity, it's a bit tricky to get meeting rooms. And it's a timing thing as well, because often when we're interviewing professionals, we need, and especially with the market the way it is at the moment with candidate shortage, you need to really interview people when they're available, which could be in between office hours, it could be at crazy hours. The internal meeting room is more so what we use for team meetings within our staff. Generally, occasionally we'd have someone come in for an interview in that space. Again, it depends who they are and what region they're from, but it is still quite tricky. We shouldn't really be interviewing them in glass kind of open rooms.
So I guess on that, I mean, I do a lot of school works, and they're all about open learning, different classrooms, being able to see in the other, very similar to probably what you've got at the hub there. But in saying that, we also do office fit outs where we do a frosting through the glass, which makes it so that, you know, if you're standing up, you can see over. However, if you're sitting down in a meeting, it is quite obstructed. Is that something that would be attractive to a business like yours, noting that you do have the facility to be able to use that conference room, obviously, albeit as long as it works with the rest of the hub businesses? Would that be something that would be beneficial to you and I guess the other members in that area?
Yeah, definitely in a private office, a recruitment agency or a human resourcing practice would have, yeah, I've seen a lot of frosted glass or muted types of windows and stuff. That's in, if that was my own office and I was in my own private kind of lease, I could dictate those things. I guess in this environment, we're, trying to be generic across the board for all businesses that are coming through there. But yeah, if I was to, I guess, make that suggestion, it would be more of that privacy. So you can have momentum. For us, it would be that momentum in having interviews. We generally tend to stick to Zoom more so because of that, just because there's that little bit of fear of the public kind of exposure of our candidates.
All right, no worries. And just confirming, it's about 20% that you like to meet in person of your business?
Well, that's what we're achieving. Just because it does lack a little bit of that privacy. We can still get it done. I mean, we can still get the job done through Zoom, but we do hold back a little bit.
So you'd like to up that percentage to 30, 40% for argument's sake?
Oh, definitely. And I think, like I said earlier, from our perspective, the revenue of our business increases the more people that we can see, the more interviews we can have coming through.
No worries. Thank you.
Aaron?
Yeah, Nathan, just coming back to that office, like Pina said, I purposely don't use that glass office because the way the television or whatever you want to call it is positioned, I'm a financial advisor and tax agent. I can't put anything up on that screen because everyone can see it. If there were some privacy curtains that we could close within that space, so we have an option of choosing to close those curtains when we see someone or not, then that space would, I think, be more useful for some of the other ways of using it. But I am quite happy with the small room 1.2, which I use regularly. It's probably my favorite room because it is small. It's much more of a way to talk on a personal level to clients. And when you're doing financial advice, that's what people like better. They don't want to be in a big space with a big TV and they like the more personal, close in type arrangement. But for the glass fishbowl, as I call it, inside the hub, if it had privacy curtains, then maybe that would help as well.
Raph, you've been very silent. Would you like to make any comments?
It's because I only just got on.
A while, I've timed you.
Yeah, so the fishbowl is exactly that. I mean, the whole shared area of the hub is a fishbowl, and there's positives to that. You see that people are active and doing things. The meeting room, yeah, I mean, does it, what are the options? Curtains, or just frost the whole thing and be done with it? Because is it useful at all to be seeing in there, apart from knowing that then it's actually being used? Which Nathan, I'm sure, those things, it's keep the bottom clear so you can see the feet and keep the very top clear so you can see that the light's on. But yeah, I think that'd be, if we're talking about the privacy and being able to activate that space more often for two current members, yeah, frost the glass majority of it and be done with it. That's a no-brainer. The open space, that is what it is. And yeah, Nathan, the schools that have got the open plans with the glass doors that they can shut off between some classrooms, or back in my day, it was just the concertina, thing that pushed across and that kept one class away from another class. It's the choice to be in the open space. That's what it is. I think there are other environments in Gawler that you can have the closed offices. Yeah.
Anything else you want to add, Ralph, about the hub itself?
Generally, still disappointed in the climate control. Like so many issues about the climate control.
Climate control? It's not controlled, is it?
The climate not control. So many cheers in the air of yes, we've done it. No, you haven't.
So just on that was a defect on the build. Why hasn't that been fixed, David?
Thanks, Karen. So it's an ongoing argument with our builder, and we have not been able to come to a resolution. The latest round was the uninterruptible power supplies on the roof, which are installed, are not to code and not to standard to be installed on the roof, which we advised them of in the defect, and we're waiting on replacements for those still. That caused the building management system to fail, which meant that it wouldn't turn any air conditioning on, which meant that staff were climbing into the ceiling to manually turn it on every day for about a week until we could get that bypassed. It's an ongoing issue, and we still have not released the bonds for badge on that matter because the defects are still not fixed. It's an ongoing battle, verging on the point of litigation. So
who was the company that put in the air conditioning? What was their name?
I think there's multiple companies involved, subcontractors. The BMS, I think, was Airmaster. Bestech did the design. Who actually did the actual aircon unit install is not on top of my head because that company went bankrupt before the build finished.
Right. Okay, so any feedback for the members who have to put up with the...
Well, as we keep communicating with the members, we're doing the best we can with an ongoing battle with our builders. It's kind of out of any of our staff control. Lately, it's been running relatively well, if not a little bit chilly, rather than too hot. But yeah, it's an ongoing thing. We need to get a resolution through our building contract, which we haven't been able to achieve thus far.
So yeah, and I'll say, when do you think that will happen, David?
I'll need to check with the property team on where they're at with that litigation. I'm not across where it's at.
Okay. What were you going to say, Rachel?
I'll say that David and the Sam and Sarah that are at the hub are like, they do keep us up to date and they do let us know. And, we go to Sam, it's 19 degrees again in here and it's freezing. And we know it's not their fault. It is frustrating. You come in and it's a beautiful day outside and it gets colder in there. And so you've got the poor guys in their vests and their jackets and, sometimes we stay home because it's not a conducive working environment. The hotter it is outside, the colder it's going to be in there. And it's just like, it is frustrating. It's not their fault, but it does detract from.
And being energy efficiency business, it's quite frustrating working in an environment where it's not just uncomfortable for many people to work from, but it's also costing council unnecessary money to actually run the air conditioning that is kind of not performing as it should be.
And not responsible.
For 1 degree increase of air conditioning, 5% of extra energy consumption. So you have to think like that to understand the huge amount of waste. It is not just comfort, it's actually the money that costs the council.
No, I'm absolutely.
As ratepayers, that's annoying.
Hearing you. Now.
Sorry, I'll just butt in as well. As tenants, it's pretty annoying. To the point where You know, maybe everyone needs to go back to council and say, you know, 20% refund for the last, how long you been there, Tom and Rachel? 3 years? Because it's not a conducive work environment, and in a managed office space like that, as opposed to any other commercial tenancy that I'm responsible for the air conditioning, it's not conducive to work. Like, seriously, 19 degrees is not a good working.
I'm not disagreeing with you at all.
Or what about when it got up to 30, 31 in the office? That wasn't conducive either.
Well, that was. I don't think any of us were in there. Like we
just to be more productive, we should just stop talking about it. We will say air conditioning is not working. Let's talk about anything else.
Yeah, and we understand that it's a process and all of those sorts of things, but it is one of the things that seriously makes us go. Anyway.
Karen, you've got your hand up. Karen Braun.
Yeah, hi there. Just picking up on that, you know, obviously everybody knows that a comfortable climate for working in is absolutely critical to the success of the hub and also the success of the people working within the hub. And it's fabulous that David and the others in the team have got something happening, trying to go through, look at litigation, etc. But that could take a very, very long time with still no results. So what is the plan in the meantime for the people who are working within or trying to work within these unsuitable conditions? Is there something that maybe elected members and council can actually discuss to try and put in place to try and help ease things whilst you go through litigation? I know it could be costly, and I know budgets, you know, are pushed to the limit, but the last thing you want to do is to lose hub members because of the climate, and I'd hate to see that happen.
I might hand over to Henry in there. You've got your hand up, Henry.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I've been involved in conversations with the managing director of Badge Construction, who are responsible for this issue, which has been a long-standing problem. I don't think we've pulled the trigger for litigation, because I understand that the conversations with Roger Zammit have been more productive over the last number of months. And my last conversation with Chris Parrish, who's our property officer, is that the technology element that's outside, that shouldn't be outside, but it should be in the building, as I understand it, it's imminent that that's going to be relocated. And everyone tells me that's going to fix the problem. So I'll follow up with Chris after this meeting today to follow up on where we're at in relocating that particular piece of technology that's critical to the air conditioning system that shouldn't have been located outside, and it being repositioned internally. And Chris tells me that will solve the problem. So I'll get back to everyone who participates on this conversation relative to that matter soon, but yeah, we've been trying to work through it, but I'm hoping it's within the next short period of time. I won't give it any dates, but we have been onto it as best we can.
Thank you for that update. Okay, any other discussion points? Perhaps we'll move away from air conditioning for now. Any other comments around the potential of the hub?
Yeah, I've got, sorry, Karen. I actually put my real hand up. I forgot to use the emoji hand.
Okay, that's all right.
Yeah, I don't know if we can just kind of switch gears a bit, but I'm wondering about what kind of branding support there might be. I know the guys mentioned earlier about some signage. When we have visitors, we guaranteed we've got Megan on the phone giving them directions on how to get into the building. From the back end on High Street, because it's quite a little secluded doorway. It's basically all wall until you see this little nook that you can enter the building. I don't know if there's a possibility to have signage there, or even a fixed sign that you can slide in the little kind of aluminium signs that can come in and out, so they're not costly, but they're there so that people coming in from the high street side can see that there are businesses in there. And even at the front door, I mean, I think the street presence is, you pay for that in your ultimate like standalone lease where you've got the street presence and those buildings that are labelled. But in our sense, yeah, I think that it would help to have something to pinpoint that this is where we are. When we send out our interview calendar bookings, we've got strict instructions there on exactly which building to walk into and how to, you know, elevator down the back up to level 1, circle around, and you'll see all the glass and the yellow chairs. It's like such a descriptive way, and which is okay. We're still getting it done, but guaranteed we've got, you know, people calling going, I think I'm in the wrong building, or they've gone next door to 2 other recruitment agencies that are on the other sort of building. And branding within itself, I don't know, I don't see too many of our businesses in the Bunyip. What's the relationship there? What is that, because there's like, are there reasons that there's not that partnership, or am I just not seeing it much? But I don't know. I don't see these guys or any of us kind of branded or recognised in the Bunyip. This is our kind of our region and our area. Is that a relationship that you guys have, or some kind of
I might hand to David Barrett.
Marketing.
David, you've got some thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So a couple of things. We've got to apologise internally. We've been trying to get to a point of having capacity to put the TV display back into action with all of your logos, etc. So that'll cover off on a bit of visibility from the glass exterior to see what businesses are in the hub. In terms of the Bunyip relationship, we've got an excellent relationship with the Bunyip as part of council, but it's not council's role to specifically market businesses. And that's not part of the charter with the Business Innovation Hub. We're not going to be, as council, promoting single businesses above others. So in terms of the hub members, we're not going to be actively promoting them through the Bunyip and using council's funds to do that. However, we do, as you know, Pina, try and link you guys in to our socials and videos and actions around the hub. And I know that we want to schedule a time as soon as we can, once you've got the actual glassware, I think it is, Pina, that we're waiting on for your award for the innovation, most innovative recruitment company in Australia or something like that. So those sorts of things we want to celebrate, but that, when it comes to the Bunyip itself, we send through media releases and things like that, but that's up to the Bunyip editor to publish. We won't be doing paid promotion of hub members as a consequence of council needing to be across that with all businesses if we did. So we do definitely share the successes from the hub, and then it's up to the Bunyip to print as a result. I know a few members, including Lucas, who was on Apology tonight, has been involved in a bit of that media as well, around the success of Rockhopper Wealth and its growth in that space. In terms of internal signage, there was an extensive design plan with signage that came with the building. We haven't touched that since the building was constructed, so we could consider that. I'm not sure what council's appetite would be to increasing signage within the building though.
Alex Brown, did you want to say something, Alex?
Yeah, look, I think starting with a simple directory in the building would be fantastic. It just says, as people walk in, what businesses are there and where are they? And that's pretty standard in any sort of commercial environment that you usually walk into. Thanks.
Now, Nathan, you've got your hand up, I think.
Yeah, firstly, sorry about the AC. This is the first I'm hearing of it. The conversation will happen after this, I'm sure. Secondly, directory and signage and everything like that. Look, it makes perfect sense. I was a part of a business building services, we called it here in Gawler. And when I had a carpentry business, I shared the same hub with an electrician, a plumber, an engineer. It worked very well for us because we were building and trade services. And look, you know, the signage makes perfect sense. Pina, just on your point in regards to the Bunyip, as David sort of pointed out, we actually don't own the Bunyip at all. They're a private business. What they report on is their own. It's up to them to do so. It'd be like me turning around and saying, look, David, why aren't you getting the bunyip to report on me more as an elected member over the other elected members? I mean, don't get me wrong, it would help my election chances if I choose to run again, but you also have that commercial competition that we have to do. We do have to worry about as council here in this space, because what we're getting, I guess, accused of, you know, through the community every now and then is about providing a space for businesses when we already have businesses that do the same thing. We do need to be careful of that. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but we do need to be very, very careful of that, because what we're doing to provide this space, we're actually using ratepayer money to do so, and taxpayer money, because we were able to get some grants. But the marketing side of it, if there's another recruitment agency that is doing as well as you or not doing as well as you, it doesn't really matter, but we're seen promoting your business over theirs with no reason to. The success stories I get, but turning around and leaning on our relationships, I guess, on the bunyip to say, we're going to do a 2-page spread on what your ratepayer money is doing. And by the way, here's some businesses that are in our hub as well to look into. I think that sort of crosses the line, and it is a little bit important to understand where that line is. And to be fair, I wouldn't have understood where that line is either until I started getting on this side of it. But it is very, very important to realize the bunyip marketing is different to council marketing. And those good news stories, as David pointed out, are what we want to be able to promote, and do the same for any local business in the town of Gawler as well. But yeah, just to almost solidify that point.
It is.
And I'm not suggesting that it's your money. I didn't mention the spend. I'm talking about whether there's that leverage there, and you know, a whole page spread on the hub within itself, like what the hub's doing, and you know, the logos of the businesses in there. I mean, I don't know, would another recruitment agency be peeved about that? I think there's a real celebration that goes into what you're doing for incubator businesses, startup businesses, you know, and we all feed the little chicks, because, you know, they're the ones that need the feed and need to be cared for. So I don't know, I kind of would have seen it as a celebration as opposed to any form of complaint against you guys, because they're ultimately, I think, hub members of businesses in need. Like, if you weren't in need, you'd be out paying 60 grand a year for a lease, and all those overheads wouldn't be as much of a concern. But you're in the hub because you're a baby business. So that's all. It was just, yeah, a question about that leverage to build up some more recognition for the businesses.
I might go to Di Fraser now. Di?
There's a possibility there that the people that are in the hub could get together and do a half page or a full page spread themselves in the bunyip and promote their businesses that way.
That's certainly an opportunity. It's an interesting discussion because this is an incubator. So all of you come in as micro businesses. I remember Tom and Rachel, when you were in the Stratton Centre and you couldn't wait to get into the hub, you wanted to be in Gawler, you wanted to contribute, and you've certainly done that. You've provided innovation. So there's things that you can celebrate around innovation and certainly new startups, and you can angle it in a particular way, but straight advertising for particular businesses, I completely agree with Nathan. We have to be particularly careful as a council. There is national competition. What's it called, David?
It's the National Competition Policy and the application of competitive neutrality principles.
Competitive neutrality that all councils are subject to. So we're all quite mindful. We've all learnt about that, and we're guided by staff on whether we cross the line or not. So it is tricky, and so it is, and certainly some of the criticisms that I've had as mayor is, you know, why are we promoting businesses in the hub and giving them an advantage. And Pina, you hit the nail on the head as far as, you know, startup business. This is all about startup businesses. And at some point, some businesses will leave because they're so successful, they can afford to go out. And that's the whole point of an innovation hub, to actually support new business. And I think Anne Moroney said it really, really well around startups, micro businesses, and that's the future of, you know, employment. And it's also really, really important that we support new businesses in our region locally, so that your businesses and other businesses employ people locally, so they don't have to go to Melbourne and Sydney. You know, the drain is starting to change as a result of COVID. Everyone wants to come over here because it's safer. Fair enough. But so there's lots of strengths of what we're doing. It's about how we manage the promotion carefully without crossing those legal parameters. So and that's where I think we work collaboratively to do that. Henry, you've got your hand up very patiently. Henry Mueller.
Thank you. I think Councillor Fraser, I think, made the point that we could group together to put in an advert to promote the hub or promote ourselves within the hub. And I think that's where my point went earlier about using the address and using the association with the hub, rather than council doing the advert. If the hub is likely to be fairly secure in the sense that council's not going to shut the doors in the next 6 months or 12 months or 5 years, then it may be that there could be a Friends of the Hub group or a network association with the hub, and we put money into it and we do advertising and that sort of thing as a group. So anyway, that's something that we can take up between us later on.
So
thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Henry. They're great points. I've got Tom, I've got David Hughes, I've got Di Fraser, and then I've got Raf. Go for it, guys.
All right, you called me first, so I'll start. I just, Karen, it's very good that we sort of talk about those things. I think it's from my point of view, it's not very clear and defined what this support is really. So since the council took over the management of the hub, we started to talk about more kind of a real cost of the hub to the members. And since then, we have a few people actually left the hub, and we haven't replaced them with anybody else. So obviously that kind of, for some of the startups, even the money that we pay today, which is deemed as a kind of a fair, and it's too much for some other members because they don't have enough work to cover those bills. But you know, like Pina, like I would like different kind of support. Like we need more. Like I'm not a business person. I would like to get support more about business development. So, you know, like by saying the council is there to support the businesses, we were never kind of told how we can access that support and what are the boundaries of that support strategies or measures are. So I would like to hear more about those opportunities. You know, like all our people that work for us are from Gola, and what we're trying to do is just employ more Gola people to do the work that we're doing. And, you know, that's our goal. But, you know, moving out obviously would kind of bring some additional risks to all of us, and that would result in our business shrinking rather than growing. So, yeah, there are 2 points I want to share. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. I think this is a really one of those critical conversations, you might call it, to really get to the heart of how we can make the hub really hum. Now, who was next? Deputy Mayor Hughes, you were next, I think, and then Di, and then Raf.
Yeah, I was going back to the advertising side of things. As councillors, we haven't really been hearing about the successes as probably on the grapevine, we hear of businesses that move in and out and have done really well. But I think there could be some way of advertising new occupants to the hub and those that are leaving the hub and celebrating sort of people that move in and celebrating people that move out because they've been successful or doing something differently. I think it's important for us to sort of sell the hub to our community. We know it's not an operation that's going to make a profit for Gawler, but as the Mayor said, we want local jobs and local people employed in Gawler. And also we want the innovation of the businesses that all the business owners are working towards. But I think it's really important that we actually sell it to our community that's subsidising the hub. And I think the hub's fantastic, but I do think we need to celebrate that. And I think there is a way of probably getting around that advertising side of things by these businesses that start in the hub and then those that leave. I think that's really important to celebrate the successes of any project, anything you're involved with. But I think with the hub, because it's community funds, it's really important as well. So yeah, I just was feeding into that side of that advertising and innovation side. Thanks.
Di's next, I think.
So yes, I'm going back to the advertising as well. If the Bunyip's a private enterprise, so they're there to make money, but if you did some advertising as a whole with them, and then they might do an article on maybe once a month or something on individual businesses with their story, but they probably wouldn't do that unless there'd been some form of advertising with them. But they are, the Bunyip's very forthcoming on doing, a spread on local things. So I think if, you could get all the businesses there to start off and do a half page, you don't have to pay for a full page, a half page on the businesses, and then have the conversation with the editor about them, perhaps promoting different businesses there as, once a month or something, just until everybody, not once a month continuously, but once a month until all businesses have had their fair share.
Yeah, it's a two-way street with the Bunyip because they are a private business. And they, at one point, as we know, they were struggling, and they had a number of supporters, including council, that came to their aid because we value our local paper. It'd be an interesting discussion to have with the Bunyip, but you'd probably have to put something on the table. Now, next is Raf, then Karen Braun, then Paul Koch, I believe.
All right, so I'm not really one to beat around the bush, but I am one to yak on, so call me up when you need to. Yeah, I know you will, Karen. So I think the elephant in the room, and Henry alluded to it, I might have missed any conversation at the beginning, but, is council in a position where they're worried about the management of the hub? That's one kind of question that might have a quick answer. I'm hearing some councillors push back on the support, the advertising bit due to competitive, regulations around local government. Totally understand that. Totally get the point about the Bunyip being a commercial enterprise, and you're going to get what you give. But I'll reflect on Tom's conversation of I'm not a business person. One of the reasons why we use the space in the hub is because we're micro, we're small. Our budgets are small. So the rent budget as a percentage of turnover is small. The marketing budget on percentage of turnover is small. Now, here's the biggest drama. We say very easily off the top of our heads as elected members, just pay the Bunyip to run stuff. Like, who's going to write that stuff, right? So the hub members need people around them that are going to support them in the marketing material to then go as a group to the Bunyip or the online sort of world and say, hey, this is us as an innovation hub. Now, again, I'll keep yakking on. when Andrew Morris was a private entity managing the hub, there was the potential there for the friends of the hub, as Henry put it, to exist, right? Is a separate entity. The Innovation Hub is not managed by council. The Innovation Hub can go and advertise however it wants to do, and the rent that the tenants are paying would have gone to that kind of thing. Now, just like renting in a larger space, you might actually pay into a marketing fund. All right, that's not going to happen while council's managing the hub. But again, I would ask elected members to reflect on the reasons why a third party was put in place to begin with. I'll have them reflect on how the grant funding got approved when you're going to have this direct conflict of supporting businesses that are, under your care, so to speak, as a tenant. This conflicted thing that I hear coming from some of the councillors now, of other businesses saying, well, actually, you're being competitive against my business. And there is one other space that I understand rents out the kind of square meterage as the small businesses in the hub, in the Gawler Innovation Hub, utilise, but it's not actually a very nice place. Right, I'll shrug my shoulders at that and leave it at that. But I'm really worried about councillors not being 100% confident to say, yes, this kind of space for small enterprise is what the Gawler Council is confident in backing, and here's why. Right? Some of the things I would, again, still ask councillors to reflect on. Is it a business innovation hub? Is it a business incubator? Is it a shared open plan office space? Right? What is the actual reason for the hub to exist? If it's to incubate, then we're missing the piece on the support. Right? That's probably about all I've got so far.
You did pretty well. I didn't have to stop you at all, Raph. That's really good insights and really good comments. Karen Braun, I think you're next.
Raph stole some of my points, but that's good. Firstly, there's a couple of things that I want to bring up. One is I hear what people are trying to get across, and it's extremely difficult when you first start your own business and for the first few years to get on top of everything. And cash flow is being used where it has to be to try to improve the business so that you can keep making more net profits. One of the things that the Gawler Business Development Group has done in the past, and I'm going to mention this now because I'm going to put it to the board tonight when the meeting's finished, I'll put it to the board tonight. In the past, and Raph will know this, I think Raph actually seconded this motion, so I'm putting you on alert here a little bit, Raph. Last financial year, we did a little bit of a special deal for memberships for home-based businesses to try to get them more involved with what is happening within Gawler and hopefully to get them to come into the hub as well. And we did a special deal for memberships. Now, for those in the hub who aren't aware of how the Gawler Business Development Group memberships work, there is a levy attached to council rates on the buildings that landlords own, and the levy pays for membership for the people who are leasing premises that are out there commercially leased. The hub isn't a commercial space, so therefore you guys don't pay that levy, so you're not automatically members. However, there is absolutely no reason, as far as I'm concerned, but I do have to put this to the board and get them to approve it, why we couldn't do one of the special $50 offers again to give you a 12-month membership of the Gawler Business Development Group, which would then allow us on your behalf to do a promo piece on the hub and put it to the bunyip to put out there. Now, this would mean that all of you would need to become members. Raph is already a member because he has two commercial spaces that he works from as well, and there's a couple of other members as well. But if people were happy to do that, then there's no reason why we can't do that. We do take pockets of the the business community, different sectors every now and again, and do a promo on them. There's no reason why we can't do that for you if you become members. So that's one of the things I'd like to put to you. That
It's a wonderful. It's a wonderful.
Why not? Why not?
Yeah. Bit of feedback there. Now, Councillor Kosh, I think, and then Nathan, I think you're next after that.
Yeah, thanks, Karen. I just want to say a couple of things. I think we need to define what the hub is actually doing, whether it's a business incubator, whether it's to develop innovation, be an innovation space, or whether it's just shared space. I think if it's a shared space, you could then say you've got issues with competitive neutrality, because there are other spaces in the town which are offering just shared spaces. I think the one up the road, I looked at it, was $165 a week. We're charging $250 a month. So somebody could say, well, wait a minute, I think that's the figures. Sort of looked at. So someone could say, well, you're competing against my business. So there's a potential an issue there if we're just a shared space. And in innovation space, how far do we go? I don't know. And for me, when I voted for it originally, it was because it was business, an incubator. Now I've got a background in that area. I used to work in social enterprises where I used to develop small businesses. So that included doing the research, doing SWOT analysis, writing business plans, doing the financial plans, doing organising the training, the actual establishment of a business, and then supporting that business for a couple of years till they were a success. If after a couple of years they weren't a success after that, they were never going to be a success. So, I was involved in probably close to 10 businesses that I helped in that process. So for me, business incubators are the way to go, because it did create employment for people just from an idea. And if you do it, if you get into it and do all the research and put all the effort in, they do succeed. So that's where I've got my concerns around whether we're focusing on it being a business incubator or whether it's an innovating space or shared space. I think for me, if as a business incubator, we've got the gig city, etc., we should be trying to encourage, smart business to go. And I think this is exactly what needs to go there. But some of the others there, I think we're going to get ourselves tripped up with the competitive neutrality issues. So that's my thoughts.
Nathan, you're next, I think.
Yeah, so what I'm probably pulling out of these conversations is, we need to define our terms of reference, and we need to define them pretty quickly. We have businesses that want the best of their space, but that's business. That makes perfect sense to me, that you're wanting to make sure that you're getting everything that you possibly can for the rent that you pay. For the other side of the story, the elected body, we're coming in at the end of these conversations, by the way, and this is something that we moved to have. Council as an owner of this space, as a manager of this space, only came into play a few months ago. And as we know, December's a bit of a write-off because of the Christmas break. So we're trying to play a little bit of catch up here. We acknowledge the other management wasn't quite on par with what we were expecting, and we're not even using this space. So look, we're running on the fly here. But I guess the point to make is really nailing down your expectations, but then also outlining the ability of what we're able to give, because we're not a commercial landlord in the sense of what it would be like if you went up and complained at the business hub that's next to Cash Converters there. It's a different sort of process. And I agree with Councillor Kosh in defining that innovation space, defining that public, we need to be able to define so both understand exactly our expectations of each other. Firstly, I really am happy that you guys are the businesses in there, and I've had a bit to do with a few of the faces on the screen, and it's been fantastic. You've obviously got the right heads on the shoulders to be able to make these things work. It's just a matter of us almost getting on that business line, because local government doesn't necessarily have the same mantras as what private business has. Rightly or wrongly, don't get me wrong, I'm banging my head against the wall every now and then trying to understand the local government spending and management. But it's great having these conversations, because I think marketing, signage, notoriety, and are all standard topics that a business would like and definitely needs to be able to grow. I like that Karen and Louise are here to be able to sort of be able to talk about what their roles are for the Gawler Business Development Group that council resolved a long time ago, even before my time, to be able to run and be able to be that conduit for businesses. I think we almost have the ingredients here. We just need to figure out how to make it all work. And some of the little details about teasing out marketing and how that would work as a collaboration. It's funny how council, as the elected body and as the organisation, can't operate directly for your behalf, but we can definitely point you in the right direction. And the Gawler Business Development Group is our attempt at that. And seeing how that all collaboratively works will be interesting to see. Admittedly, I have voted for this sort of conversation, these sorts of workshop against the last model, because I don't think we were doing that. So I'm happy to see this rolling out. And yeah, look, let's see where it takes us.
David Barrett.
Thanks, Karen. Just a couple of clarifying points. Thank you, Raf, for raising the fact that we're not doing the business support. That's 100% correct, and that's the entire intent of this workshop. You missed my opening spiel, which was the fact that we've taken over co-working only from the 1st of October. We have not implemented any programs, any development whatsoever, because we want to know how best to do that. And this workshop will hopefully get us a bit of that around that business development. And I hear you, Tom, you're not a businessman, but you're a very successful business in my eyes. But we can certainly work with you guys. Oh, it's all Rach, yeah, fair enough. We can certainly work with all the members of the hub around that support and development and growth and scalability. We just need to know as council how best to do that. Whether it's that private operator, as we mentioned, or whether it's collaborations with RDA and Gawler Business Development Group, or whether it's employing a staff member to come in and work in economic development functions and deliver all those sorts of things alongside the businesses. So that's the purpose of the workshop. And defining those intents and purposes exactly where we want to go. We also need to define a bit better what we mean by startup or incubator or innovation, because they mean a lot of different things. And if we can put a framework around what those definitions actually mean, it will help us navigate this. And I also wanted to clarify from that competitive neutrality state, the comments from Councillor Kosh regarding the Business Hub. It's a different operation at the Business Hub. They are private offices for $160 a week. And that is exactly the commercial tenancy valuation that we achieved for the lower ground floor meeting rooms of the Civic Centre Town Hall. And that was valuations that we presented to council back in, I think it was September, October, somewhere around there, around those rooms as private offices. They don't have an open co-working space environment, and the open co-working space environment and the fees that the hub members pay are actually commensurate with commercial leasing of that entire space, assuming that we can have bums on seats. You would cover your commercial rental based on the fees that we currently charge. So I just want to be very clear in that competitive neutrality space that we are applying a cost reflective pricing model to all of the hub's operations. So that's why we have said to everyone at council that we're compliant with our competitive neutrality the whole way through. So I don't have any concerns on competitive neutrality. Obviously, creating business development and growth assists council from what you'd call a social aspect, more so than a business aspect, because it assists in that business development and mentoring. Obviously, we have that advice and support also through Gawler Business Development Group and RDA. So we don't want to be treading on people's toes. We want to do it in the best way that we can collaboratively and get what members want. So I'd love to hear more from members about that support arm and what they need. I've heard business development in general. I've heard marketing, content delivery, but that's about it tonight in terms of support. I'm sure there's more from you guys, so I'd be really appreciative to hear a bit more from that side of it. Thank you.
Karen Braun and then Pina.
Yeah, basically, I just wanted to touch on what Paul Kosh was saying regarding the incubator system. And he's spot on that, you know, the hub does need to become an incubator as such, with the, you know, new businesses coming in, growing and having constant support. So on-site support day in, day out for, you know, 12, 18 months, 24 months, and then to move on to commercial or semi-commercial space, bigger space. However, it's vital, if that were to occur, it's vital that there are anchor tenants as well. And to me, the point that all of the people in the hub are at right now, people who are the, as David said, the bums on seats, you're those anchor tenants at the moment. And anything new that comes in now is the 7 spaces, I think, David, that we were discussing the other day. I think there were 7 seats available. Those would be those new people coming in on an incubator. Doesn't mean that the people who are in there already as anchor tenants can't access all of those services as well, but it does need to be both. It needs to be an incubator, but it also has to have anchor tenants, or it just wouldn't survive.
Thank you, Karen. Pina.
Thank you. And this is my first meeting of this kind, so I wasn't sure what to expect, but I really appreciate all the openness to the feedback. I think from an individual perspective, I think council are probably well set to consider the types of people that are coming into the hub, and whether you label it innovation hub or incubator or shared space. That, yes, I agree with the others that should be clearly defined, but everyone who comes into this space is an entrepreneur. You're talking about people who, there's a lot of red tape. This just feels restricting to me, and any one of us can go out and work for, you know, a recruitment agency or, you know, a Zen Energy. Like, if that's what we wanted, we'd be doing that. But we're here because we're entrepreneurs. Our homes are on the line, our mortgages, our kids' school fees. And so I guess I'm just learning, and I'm feeling a little bit like there's some red tape here to suggest things like branding. And I'm not, again, specifically relating to you guys spending money on our advertising. I'm talking about branding and just, you know, talking about the members of the hub. I kind of just don't, I'm trying to understand the point of it if we're just a bum on a seat. And I'm not suggesting that that's what anyone's saying. I'm just feeling this sense of restriction and red tape, and and I'm just kind of, you know, it's all just dawned on me that it's council, and we can't be innovative if we're stuck inside these rule boxes. That's just my opinion. I'm about pushing past the rules, pushing past the boundaries. That's why I think our innovation award came from you know, pushing past those boundaries and the status quo of what's expected in recruitment agencies and how things should be done. So I'm sort of sitting here going, you know, listening to you guys talking about, you know, we don't want to upset Bob up the road because it's not fair. But Bob up the road, who's got a big established business, started somewhere. Someone gave him a leg up. Someone gave him some support and recognition and, hey, you know, referrals and networking. And I guess what we're saying is it's got to come from us within. So yeah, I guess it's just an awareness and sort of just learning.
I might go to Anne Moroney next. I'm sure you've got some really interesting insights on how we can solve some of these challenges.
I'm here tonight to listen because we put in a fairly comprehensive submission as to how we thought we could contribute to the hub in collaboration with council in a way that was, I think, extremely cost effective for council. But I was just curious as to whether it's just a bit dark, which is why I had the video off. It's
I can't see you.
Yeah, that's why I switched it off. It's actually not dark, but it's where the light is. It makes me look dark. whether the hub members had seen that proposal in terms of asking them what support they want. That proposal might have given them some insights. There's a lot that's been said tonight. I think for me, the key takeaways, the key needs are to, one, really define what purpose council wants this hub to perform. That, to my mind, you really need to set some criteria for who is going to be supported in the hub, and a growth mindset is the essential criteria. You need to not just be subsidising the rent of businesses who know them when they're on a good thing, and I don't think anyone's suggesting that's happening, but you need to sort of qualify people. They've got a growth mindset, they want to work with the program, they want to participate in all the hub can give and make the value for Gawler greater than if they just took an office down the road. So they're winning, the town of Gawler's winning. We're creating something new by them being together, and that usually requires a degree of curation and support. So that can happen in lots of different ways. The other thing I'd just like to remind everyone, it's amazing how a war, especially with the spectre of someone pushing the nuclear button, makes us forget about COVID. But we've had these really unusual circumstances for running a place like this in the last couple of years. Well, certainly since, probably mid-2020, when everyone realised this wasn't going away in a hurry, that the opportunity for people to collaborate, to have events, to get together, to even do certain kinds of activities and services has been quite severely restricted. And not in the least since the beginning of this year, since council took over the running directly. So I just would like to remind people that what's been happening in the last couple of months can't be seen as normal for the hub. But the beauty of council having a space like this is that you can, I don't want to say the word, but I have to, pivot. And if you've got a program going and something like COVID comes and businesses need a different kind of support, the hub can do that. It can be that Harry Potter room of requirement that meets the needs of the town residents and to an extent hub residents as it needs to. So it's about, subject to my little, my comments about the impact of COVID and the difference that made to how it needed to be and has been, and the difficulties that made for council too. It really is about the purpose, the level of programming that's desired, both by existing hub members, but by council to attract and get the value out of new businesses for the town. And then I think part of that comes from then networking the networks. And I'd just like to endorse that for the bit around collaborative advertising, that I think Karen Brown's right. If people become members of Gawler Business Development Group, they can participate in those collaborative activities. That group is sort of funded to support Gawler businesses in, because they're ultimately Gawler businesses, but that the incubation services could be a different approach and with a different mindset around them. That's all.
Thanks, Anne. That's really worthwhile comments. Raph, I think you're next, Raph. Yeah.
So actually, Anne, this is maybe something that you could answer, but maybe it's a bit of research because I'm not sure if it was your area. I seem to remember that Peterborough had a RDA co-funded council position that worked as a development officer when they were relaunching their Peterborough brand. And I might be, again, off track in Peterborough. Sorry, bad joke.
Yeah, no, I can answer a bit that. Peterborough being a special case, and don't listen to anyone politically sensitive, did get some extra funding for development under the Brock government. That was a short-term position. Having said that, yes, we have people, and that was the basis of the program that I was proposing, that our resources be applied to that. We have Zach at the moment, as I said, who's got considerable experience in running startups and helping others run startups for some time. We're willing to put all that at the disposal of the Business Hub, with the opportunity for any budget council had set aside for that to be applied to specialist things that were decided, because each business is different in the hub. And if you've got someone working with you, helping you with your growth mindset and helping you get to that next level, it might be that a generic hub program doesn't meet every need. You need to have some special things that works for a group of business, or maybe some services you bring in, so there should be budget applied for that, and that's not budget we have, because our budget goes on the people we have. But we do have an interest and an enthusiasm, but certainly a willingness to make available those resources to hub members to see if we can develop that kind of program with them. And that way it would be sort of, I guess, a tripartite thing that David alluded to. Council manages the booking, opens the doors, takes the money for the hub, manages the physical space. We could work with businesses on some of that programming, and the Gawler Business Development Group would embrace them into the business community of Gawler, help them with the networking in businesses in Gawler, the collaborative stuff, participating in the events that Gawler Business Development Group runs. And so you just get like the best of everyone combining, but that might end up too, though, with some fairly specific and targeted aspirations for the hub, and how people moved through it and how they used it and what they expected of the space. It's not a space for every business. I think if you could embrace some of those rooms downstairs David referred to as being some of the co-working office spaces for people who weren't suited to operating in that shared office space in the more team type growth environment, then that would be a nice support. But the other thing you can do is, with someone curating the space and the businesses in there to an extent, they can help them find that next space. They can help them find a space which might be exterior but meets their purposes, but still stays connected with activity of the hub and with the development group. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, 100%. Hopefully that's something for the elected members to continue to think through. I'll also reflect my feeling of that original manager role that was put out, and Gawler Business Development Group put a submission in, and Think Lab from University of Adelaide, Australia, forget which one, put a submission in, and all these great sort of ideas. And I think that if between council, RDA, and Gawler Business Development Group could kind of take the best of those submissions and maybe mush some of it together, and Councillor Kosh, your experience in social enterprise and the incubation sort of arena, to have those ideas put into the one place, I think could go a long way. Because my thoughts is that space shouldn't just be a co-working space. I'll reflect on one other thing and then I'll shut up for a bit. Been to a couple of fringe shows over the last few weeks, and the classic is the engagement. They were both comedies. The engagement with the comedian to the crowd, and you try and get some feedback from the crowd, and you say a joke and people laugh, and yep, that's the first level of feedback. But as soon as any of these comedians tried to engage in a specific question of the audience and seek explicit feedback, no one said anything. And it kind of reminded me about entrepreneurs and small business people. We don't know what we don't know. We find it very hard to articulate what it is that we need, because what we need right now is our debtors to pay us and our creditors to back off. Right? So there's a lot of other things on the entrepreneur's mind, and to expect that direct feedback when asked a direct question, it's not going to happen. And Karen would attest, you know, the questions that the Gawler Business Development Group asks of the business community often get no reply. And, you know, that's just one of these things. So sometimes you have to not just put the water trough out for the horse, you do have to drag that beast to the water and tell it that this is good for you to drink. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Thanks, Rab. Okay. Any other comments at this stage? Now, David Barrett. Oh, sorry, Rachel.
Sorry, I just snuck it up just then. The other thing that is an issue or can potentially be perceived to be an issue is the conflict of interest one. Like clearly there's not when you're just a tenant, but winning work for the local council or for other councils is something else that kind of needs to be managed, or other considerations around in the community where suddenly people think just because they know who you are or just because you're in a council building that all of a sudden that means they can't engage with you. And I think that that's something that potentially just needs to be addressed in the way that, you know, if you're framing what the new motivations or incentives are for the hub, that there has to be something around that as well.
Just a policy piece.
Yeah, that would sort that out. Right.
Yeah, that's right. And it's just a clarity that, you know, that it's clear that it's competitive as well, I suppose, yeah. And not that it's either way.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's always a challenge. It's an instant sort of challenge, but it's not necessarily a challenge, as Anne said. And if it's open and transparent and competitive, it's not an issue. Okay, Kirsty, you've got your hand up. Been very quiet.
Been listening. I was just thinking that as we've said, we do need to define whether it's an innovation hub or an incubator, although they don't have to be exclusive, but we probably need to define what the main aim is, of course. But on top of that, the way people are talking from the hub, it sounds like, you know, if we could actually pull together a coaching program that supports people and steps them through stages, helps them with things like understanding cash flow, pricing their products as well. A lot of startups underprice and don't make themselves viable by doing that. And pulling together, you know, how do I do a marketing plan? How do I market my business? All those sorts of things. If you could establish that coaching program that takes them through those key things. Every month there's a different topic, but there's also a coach there that if someone's, you know, already at a point where they need some of that information, they can, you know, apply them with some information to get them through, I think would be a really good start. I used to do business advising with Mid-North Regional Development Board. We had 4 coaching programs happen in the year I was there. And the businesses that were in that coaching program would progress so much better than some of the other startups around the town that I'd engaged with as well, just because they had that constant support. They also had that coach. They had a little one-on-one session with the coach each month as well, so they could go through those individual business issues or something they didn't want to basically talk about with the whole group as well. And they could also pick up that phone if they were having a really bad day or a crisis. They could pick up that phone to the coach, and the coach could talk them down and then get them thinking about, you know, the different parameters of where they've got to go, what they've got to cover. So I think that would be a really good program if people would think that that's, you know, helpful to them. But also with the directions to getting to the different locations, I wonder, I'm not an IT I'm no good at IT really, but maybe there's a digital solution where we can create some kind of link to a map of how to get there, or a stepped, you know, look for these landmarks or whatever that people could just put into their meeting invite. You know, click on this link and it'll give you directions to the Business Innovation Hub, and it actually walks them through, you know, you go up the stairs or take the lift or whatever it might be. I wonder if there's a digital solution. If we're innovating, if we're an innovation hub, let's look towards that sort of solution as well. And I think also some kind of hub graduates program would be good. So those businesses that have gone through the hub and then they graduate out into their own premises, it would be really great to almost have that alumni type thing where they come back and talk of how they went through, what they went through, how they got where they got to, etc. as well. And that might be a good one, you know, for advocating for businesses in the hub as well, with other businesses where they see synergies and they sort of go, you know, such and such has got a fleet of vehicles for his business or whatever it might be, and this new person in the hub, you know, is a buyer for various products, it might be tyres or whatever, and they connect those people together to get the special deals for the businesses in Gawler or whatever it might be. So those sorts of things could also be looked at in the future as well, but depending of course on what people want. So
they're all really wonderful pulling together of ideas, Kirsty, which you're very, very good at. I think we've got resources such as Gawler Business Development Group and RDA sitting in the hub. They've got seats in the hub already. And I think there's a real opportunity to collaborate and share and get those programs so that businesses feel they're supported. I loved what you just said, Kirsty, of how we could actually, you know, provide that support, but perhaps not do it ourselves, get these other organisations to partner and collaborate where their skill set sits rather than with council. And I think that then also feeds into Pina's point about red tape and, you know, not being particularly innovative. I think the building blocks are already there. And I think we can get bogged down on whether what we call ourselves. I don't think it necessarily matters. If you're entrepreneurs, you're wanting to come into this space, eventually you will leave. You're not there permanently forever. You will eventually move out, because that's the role of an innovation hub. And you bring in new businesses so that they can also provide support. And maybe the social enterprise arm of this hub could be businesses that leave and are successful, provide their services back as a social, community give back for the support that you've received, either financially or support through Gig City or whatever, you know, in a premium space. That could be the social enterprise as a simple way of delivering on that. That's a really simple way of providing mentoring. Anyway, they're my thoughts on what's been discussed. So
just on the coaching and mentoring, I think it's very important. Like we already have workshops, Gawler Business Development Group, RDA, etc., have all these great workshops for businesses, which is great for them to connect into. But having the individual coach gives you that confidence that you're talking to the same person over the growth of your business. They know your business, and they're not just jumping in on a conversation where you're giving them this much information. They've known your business from here, and they have all this depth of knowledge about your business. So an individual coach that would coach the group and support the group, I think is a real special key to getting that growth even quicker than what people can achieve on their own. And also incubator, other incubators also have admin support and things. So they might have shared admin support who would, you know, take phone calls when businesses aren't there, or they would book certain things for them, or they would do meeting prep and stuff like that for people. So there's another opportunity that people could think about as well, whether that would be useful. It might not be useful to the businesses. You might be all well and truly covered on that. Technology is a lot easier now than when I was dealing with people with an incubator in Adelaide at one stage many moons ago. Technology's got a lot easier for us to do ourselves now, but that's always an option as well to maybe consider.
I think Karen's next, and then Di, Fraser, and then Raf, I think.
Thanks, Karen. Just on what Kirsty was saying regarding coaching programs, the Gawler Business Development Group already have and always have run coaching programs. We have Tammy's Table that is running at the moment twice a month, 2 totally different groups. So once people come into the program, they figure out exactly what position the business is at, and then Tammy coaches them accordingly. They have group sessions, they have one-on-one sessions, etc. We also, I'm a qualified business coach. I do coaching and mentoring. We have plenty of people on the board who are able to do it and are also B2B providers. Anne Moroney has the B2B program through the RDA. Now, that doesn't have to be just one-on-one help, help. The Gawler Business Development Group, for its members, pays the fee that is applicable for business-to-business coaching and mentoring provided by different providers. I think you must have about 15 or 16 of them now, Anne. And there's no reason why that can't be ongoing, and it often is. We had a collaboration between the Gawler Business Development Group and the RDA, probably started 18 months ago, with a local business now who really needed some pretty heavy assistance, and that was provided for them for that entire period, whether it would have been in the marketing area that they needed, it was rebranding, it was, I won't say too much more because we don't really want to name who the business was, but it was an awful lot of work went into that. So that's already applied now, it's happening now, and we can certainly build more and more of those programs as the demand requires it.
Thanks, Karen. I think that's really fantastic, and also to hear that, you know, and bring that collaboration into the hub, so the hub users and hub members get the benefit of that. Yeah. Di.
Yeah, well, Karen basically said most of the stuff I was going to say, that the business development group are already doing this coaching and the courses, perhaps not one-on-one coach, but then Karen said that they can have that. So basically the hub members just need to join the Gawler Business Development Group, and then they've got all these extra things on hand and available.
Right.
So 2 hats here as Deputy Chair of the Gawler's Business Development Group. Yeah, you know, we do a great job. I'll come back to my point around the comedians asking the audience for input, right? It's got to be people that are there, right? So the idea of having a Zach or a Karen or a Christy in at the hub full time was, again, one of the appeals that the management role that was initially there at the hub. I thought that was the idea, right? And I thought Andrew Morris was a successful business person that was going to network my business with state and local government and other mid-sized businesses, and he was going to, you know, provide coaching services through KWP, or sorry, advertising services through KWP, with the partnership that that him as a hub manager had initially. You know, those things I think maybe some councillors don't even know that that's what was ever written, or that partnership existed and then dissolved. So the presence at the hub is probably the biggest thing that I'll keep reiterating. Like I said, with both hats on, being a hub member, being a Gawler business person. I'll also ask people to reflect on very successful mentorship in business incubator programs. Adelaide Hub in Port Adelaide, that used to be the BEC. I fondly remember Larry Cavallaro as a BEC member in Gawler. Now, you know, the credentials or not, right? He ran businesses. Now, whether you say successful business person or not, you know, that has a lot of definition. And without taking away any of the success or professionalism of other people that are involved in RDA, Gawler Business Development Group, etc. Rob Chisholm at Polaris Centre in City of Salisbury. So he was the entrepreneur behind Miniscath. So a Adelaide success story for, you know, 100 years, not 100 years, but, you know, a long time. To then become a business mentor in the City of Salisbury, to be mentored by a person of an entrepreneur of that character, and the multiple meanings of character, is a draw card, right? There would have been businesses that visited the Polaris Centre and then said, "Oh, and Rob Chisholm's going to be my mentor, right? I'm down for that." You know, that's the maybe one aspect that could be accentuated more in Gawler's Innovation Hub.
Thank you, Raph. Okay, so any other comments at this stage? And I might hand over to David Barrett to wrap up. Over to you, David.
Thanks, Karen. I'd thank all people on the Zoom session tonight, especially the Hub members, for taking time out. You are all micro businesses, as we know, and taking time out of your day to contribute to this conversation. I applaud you and thank you so much. It's given us great feedback to work on. We'll take that all on board as council staff. We'll start developing the frameworks required, the definitions and those sorts of things. We'll keep on the path of delivering services most likely from July onwards, just on the time frame that we've got before we can get things presented through to council and aligned with budgets. So that's sort of the time frame, but we will be doing some further reporting through to council to get a sign off on what process we want to carry forward. So we'll keep you updated as we do on a monthly basis anyway, if not more regularly, and look forward to delivering some better support services in the new financial year, noting that we haven't been able to have capacity to do that since we took over in October. But thanks again for all of your assistance tonight. There's been some really great discussion. Thank you.
Do people want to meet again after it goes to council or before? Do people find value in that, or do you think this is a one-off?
There's some applauses and thumbs up to a meeting again, and some nods of heads. We can certainly coordinate something like that in the future. Yeah,
I think it might be of value just to see how things are going and whether there's, how the collaboration between Gawler Business Development Group, RDA, how that might work. Kirsty's ideas of coordination. I just wouldn't mind having an update and just seeing where people are at. And of course, the air conditioning, of course, it's not something we can just fix like that, but it sounds like Henry has a cunning plan, so no pressure, Henry, in it. But we'll see. But yeah, I'd certainly like to get back together, but not soon. But in the next few months, I think, David, maybe it might be useful. Okay. All right, everyone. Look, thanks everyone for coming. We all really appreciate your feedback. You're very busy people. I certainly appreciate it as Mayor. And yes, you are, Rachel, you are busy. You're laughing. Definitely. We're all busy, I guess. No, I certainly, and I know the elected members have really appreciated this. So thanks, everyone. Have a great night, won't you? We'll call it quits. Cheers. See ya.
Thanks, Karen. Bye. Thanks, David, everyone.